So now I'm going to pass over with me to Selina Boshorin, and she's talking about getting real with leadership. You've probably all been on a course or had some training or been to a workshop about leadership, and we all have a set idea of what it could be like, should be like, is like. And Selina, in her experience, has some different ideas. So I'm just going to stop my share now and see if I can. There we go. Pop it on for Serena. So welcome, Serena. This is, we're going to do this slightly differently. Normally I would say, well, over to you, and I'll sit back and suck my cup of tea. But we decided that Selina and I are just too good having a chat. And whenever we have a chat, the most amazing things come out. So I thought, well, should we have a chat on the meeting? So I'm just looking at my time now, because you know what I'm like with time. I could talk all afternoon. When we started thinking about this, getting real with leadership, there was a bit of an equation that you came up with, if I remember rightly, and you talked about creativity plus structure,
yeah,
plus strategy created growth.
Yeah.
Where did that kind of spring from in the early doors? When did you kind of come up with this equation that has sort of fitted well for you?
So it's a combination for me of my own experience, but also observing and working with other people. So I find a lot of the time we can either be all in our creativity, all in our kind of fluff and loveliness, which is wonderful, but then we can be also all the other way as well. So it's all like hard, it's all got to be. And I think for me, I found it's about that combination, and when they blend together. So it comes from our space of creativity, it comes from our space of innovation, but we have the practical steps and we're doing. And I always found as well, like for me, the more creative we are, our structure kind of holds the creativity. So you need kind of that level of like strategy. You need to have that structure. You need to have kind of where are our principles, making sure we're compliant, but also it needs to be driven from inside. You know, like our goals, they don't come from just that line of outside us, but it comes from inside. And just that journey, like I said, personally, working with people, observing leaders, and I found that's what brings that magic. And that's how kind of, you know, I think people are at their best.
I mean, from my mind, when I look back at the traditional thought of a leader, it was somebody that was strong, somebody that was a problem solver, somebody that had all the answers. You know, I've got a problem, you're going to solve it for me. That was kind of, if I looked up to somebody, it felt like they were a safe pair of hands. I wouldn't have looked at the word creative with that boss. I wouldn't have looked at, you know, the sort of innovation for that person. We bring outsiders in to innovate. We pay them to innovate, and then we do the doing. And there wasn't a lot of the kind of softer skills. And I hate that phrase, softer skills, but you know, to me, the superpower skills, you know, the kindness and the caring and the understanding, and dare I say it, love in the business place. There weren't those kind of things now. So are you saying that when you come across somebody that is comfortable in their creativity, do these other soft skills, sorry for saying that, what else do we call them? the important things, all of these important things, do they come by, or are people still learning that, or is it something that I'm too wishful thinking and it hasn't happened yet?
I think in some spaces it's happened, but I think it's really interesting. I was having someone's put in the chat about emotional intelligence, and that's part of it as well. And I was having a really interesting conversation yesterday, even with someone, about when you think of what is a leader. And actually, like, I find in a lot of my circumstances, it's about people, and it's about our connections to people. It's about, like we said, problem solving, but you need that air of emotional intelligence. You need to be self-aware in order to kind of grapple with some of those things. And even like we talk about resilience, or we talk about, you know, that creativity comes in when we have really difficult, hard situations to deal with. We need something to see us beyond. what we can see in our physical. And I think a lot of some environments are definitely struggling with that, but the most successful, and obviously all of us that are in the room, you know, will be on board and will be part of that mission, and we'll be exhibiting those skills at whatever end of the journey. So yeah, really some great words in there in the chat as well.
Yes, brilliant. Transformational skills, as Lizzie says as well. So you've mentioned, talking about Lizzie, resilience, which is her wonderful, what she does. As a leader, being resilient, oh my goodness. Is it just pulling your big girl pants on and getting on with it? Like I was saying at the beginning, wasn't I, about my nan? And that was like, you know, roll your sleeves up, don't cry, get on with it. And you have to be tough to, you know, survive. Now, if you're going to be a true leader, what does that resilience look like?
The resilience comes in different forms. It comes from having, I think, again, Carol has just put in about having that sense of vision.
Yeah.
So not giving up on your vision is a really important thing. But also, even as you have that vision, it's also about not being dogmatic, but thinking of different ways. Right, this is where I want to get to. Actually, I might need to do something different. That's a sense of resilience. You know, life isn't going the way you want it to be. And it's about admitting, okay, this isn't quite what I want to see, but you know what else can I do? It's also, I think, as well, and something that we are finding more, not always having all the answers, but at the same time being able to know that you can dig deep and you can be vulnerable, you can ask for help, you can delegate, but at the same time, like when those storms come, you've got some things inside you to carry. And I think, as Paul mentioned about having, you know, that sense of purpose, that sense of trust within ourselves, that also is what creates that resilience to be able to weather the storm. And the other thing as well is when things don't go right, when we don't know, being able to say, actually, I don't know, you know, because I think that is a really difficult thing. And I know we've got time, but a really quick story. I remember I worked in training and someone said to me, if you don't know, you have to say to the students that you still know. These are adult learners. He said, you always say a strong yes. Doesn't matter what it is, you just say a strong yes. And I was just kind of like, but why would I say that? Yeah. I'm going to say, look, I don't know, but let me find out. And I remember saying that to someone, and that was such a big thing. I was like, I don't know. I'm not going to misadvise you, but you know what? This is where I'm going to look.
Yeah.
And I think it's that as well. It's being sort of like, right, we don't have all the answers, but we're not giving up. But let me go and find out. I know someone that can. Let me do it. I just need a couple of like step back a little bit. And it's that I think helps us to go through. And yeah, really great things in the chat as well.
Yeah, I mean, the courage to be vulnerable, as Lizzie is saying, because years ago, you would never say that you didn't know the answers. I mean, it was like, I remember as a primary school teachers, and the kid would ask you something, and you go, that's a really good question. Can we go and find out the answer? You know, it's like, I don't know the answer. It's a good question, you know. And even the 5-year-old can swipe the legs from under you, and you're like, why don't I know that? I should know that. But it is about courage, and it is about that building up the group around you, those people around you that you trust, so that you can say, I haven't got a clue. Can you help me? Or even, which I love as well, I'm having a bad day. You know, we've all had those days where you've woken up, you've hit your head on the bedpost or something, and you've, you know, laddered your tights and you've spilt your breakfast, and you get into the office and it's like, oh, it's a bad day and I'm not even started yet. Yeah, but just by saying to somebody, you'll never guess what's happened. You don't have to be immaculate and turned on and tuned in all the time. And I think nowadays, let's get realistic now, the women that are coming through into areas of leadership and are being promoted will be having days when they don't even know what their name is, because they're going through the menopause.
Yeah.
And probably most of the women in this room, if you haven't got to that age yet, trust me, there'll come a day when you really struggle to like, oh my goodness, what is going wrong with my head? I can't think straight. And if you have already built your team around you and you are the leader of that team and you are part of in that, and the trust is built, then you can say that, hey girls, I'm having a bad day, or hey guys, this isn't working for me. But as Lizzie was saying earlier, it is, oh, don't get me started, she says. I love it. So one of the things that we were talking about as well is taking time for yourself as a leader, holidays and things. Now you and I, when we get together, we talk a lot about Cyprus because we're both passionate about Cyprus. And and it does give you that, the minute you step off the plane, it's like, oh, back again. And everything that might have been stressing you out is gone. So what would you say for a leader who maybe is feeling like a little bit, it's all a bit too much at the minute and I can't cope? How would you kind of give them some advice to kind of chill?
I think the most important thing, yeah, boys do have bad days as well, but the most important thing I think is about creating an in-building pause and pause times. I think we can be so rushing and life can be so busy, but it is important about having time to pause. So whether you can't, like, if the first step, if you can't get away physically, it's about moments to pause. The other thing, this is where the creativity comes into it as well, is having your creative outlet. So what are the things that you love to do, even if it is a nap? I love a nap. You know, they help a lot. They're great. You know, even if it is literally sitting with tea. Again, I love tea. So that's my thing. The minute I drink tea, I'm fine. Like the world is all right. And it's that moment, or journaling, like that's amazing. The minute I stop for me to journal, to drink, like I can just be like, it's all crazy. But literally just that moment of being able to just stop and reflect and just like take a second really just helps to move things about. So I think that's the first step. And it's like, it could be 2 minutes, it could be 5 minutes, and it's building that up. The other thing as well, because obviously leaders, different roles that we have, a lot of people might be helping people. We give a lot. So we need that space to fill ourselves back up and for our heads to kind of have that headspace to think, not to kind of keep going. And it's that regular kind of time to do that, you know, really just reflecting, especially like, you know, we go through our days, the to-do list, and it's like, nah, I'm going. But just stopping, silence, you know, let's reflect, let's go over things, let's take time out. And whatever mechanism that is your thing, like I said, whether it's the music, whether it's meditation, whether it's walking, and just in building that. And we all often say, I haven't got time to stop, I haven't got time to take a break. But actually, if we're not in our best state or the way that's best for us, for our brain to function, then we're not going to be making good decisions. So you can keep going, you know, like that time where we don't want to take time off because we're sick. And we keep going and we keep going and we keep going. But actually, if you just took the time off, it might feel like you're moving backwards, but actually we're going to be in a better position for much longer. Yeah, brilliant. So we got writing poetry, something like that as part of you, part of your happy space is what's going to help you to thrive, you know, because it's within that. And I find like when I am on holiday, that's where the ideas come. That's where I start, you know, I always go with, right, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this.
Yeah.
But it's like, actually, it's just about fun. It's just about watching TV. And it's just about, then I'll get to a point and ideas will come, or solution about a particular situation. And it hasn't taken me the doing, it's actually the stepping back kind of that's done it.
Yeah. I'm coming across this more and more these days, the let it go. Not kind of being so intense. And I don't know if Claire Downham's still on the call, but she talks about the stopping the thinking, and it just makes such sense to kind of switch off in whatever way you can in your happy place, in order to allow your brain to kind of go, whew, just let it go. Whatever the stress, whatever the timetable or the deadline or the pressure or the angst or the upset, just let it go. And I could have spent many, many months agonizing over my ex-business partner. And people wanted me to. people were really liked picking that scab and going, have you seen this? Look at what he's doing now. I'm like, I don't care. I really don't care. Let it go. Because I just didn't have the bandwidth to be upset or stressed about it. Now, going back, we've already talked about giving yourself that, let it go, and giving yourself that headspace to be creative. Then you add in structure, and then you add in strategy. Why do you think those three go together?
Because for me, it's that, what's the word for it? There's kind of that level of, you're coming from your space of creativity, from vision, from being myself, but at the same time, when we've got structure, and it puts, for want of a better word, that discipline, that doing, that process, and we need process. Like, I'm a process person as well, because that helps us to move. That also takes the big picture into something tangible. And that's what the process gives us. So we kind of have our big ideas and we're creative and it's all wonderful out here. But at the same time, we now need steps to move. Without it, we can just be kind of like this indisciplined, oh, I'll do it if I feel like it, I won't do it. Oh, there's no measure, there's no tangibleness, there's no, level of impact, because we're not measuring that. And then when you've got the strategy, which is the strategy part, is right, I'm going to do this because this makes sense. This is the way I'm going to move this machine, because, and we're thinking about why we're doing something. It isn't just about sporadic kind of random movements. And I'm going to do, that there's time for that. But I think having all of that together allows us to kind of really dig into, when is the time for me to be free, creative, and, just be going myself, but making sure we're purposeful as well. I think that's what the strategy gives us, that it's intentional and it has a place to go, but it's coming from a place that's authentic, that's true, that's real, that's us, which is beyond what our mind can kind of conceive. So that's also where it's important to have that level of creativity and vision, and see beyond what the steps are as well, but it has somewhere to go.
And I think as well, when you've gone down that practical route and you've got your strategy worked out and you've got your process worked out, you're taking away all the day-to-day decisions. Should I, will I, is it a good idea, shan't I? And you just get on and do it. Now I'm putting my hands up going, I'm not a process person. So I believe in going, I'll have the big ideas and somebody else will come along and together we'll work out a strategy. And then I need somebody else to come along and go, I'll do the process. Don't worry about it. So I've got it now. Gill, stop it. I'll just tell you what you've got to do when you've got to do it. And I'm like, great.
And that's what's perfect. And this is also where self-awareness comes. If you haven't got it, you find people that can give it to you. You don't sort of wave aimlessly by yourself. That's where you need. And I think that's great, Gill, that you have that. And others need to also have that level of, self-awareness as well, because you go and find the people that will do it.
Yes. And the people you trust, the people you have fun with, the people that are also curious, adventurous, all those wonderful things that make a collaboration like, oh, this is going to be good. And you just know that you're going to have fun and it's going to be worthwhile for the people in the team and the people that it's directed at as well. That's so true. That's so true. I think as well, one of the things we talked about I'm ticking off all these things you've said, being self-aware, realizing it's a journey of continual growth. I think that's a really good point that you made the other day. It's very easy to go, yes, this is what I do this bit, and somebody else does that bit, and somebody else does that bit. But you've got to mesh them together, and we've got to take on board some of the things that you said, well, I don't know how to do that. I need some help and learning. And it might not be the thing you do at the end, but by understanding it and learning how somebody else tackles something, you get insight into the way they work, and they get an insight into the way you work as well. I've lost it now, but there was a quote. Please tell me that you saw it, from Louise. Let's just go back about the microscope.
Yes, where was that? That was a really, really
Do you want me to tell you what it was?
Yes, please, darling, go for it.
If you're focusing down a microscope, you don't actually see the view right in front of you. And I think as business people, just as Selina was quite rightly saying, is that if you are too focused, your brain doesn't work in the same way, because it's almost a stress response that you're importing into your brain. So therefore, you're not able to feel safe and look at the bigger picture. So it's a bit like that for me. It's just to remember that there are both are necessary, but you can't do one without the other.
Beautiful. Thank you, Louise. I'm so glad you came. I was telling Paul about you earlier as well. So yeah, I think we've come to that time. I'm just looking at the time now, Selina. Thank you so much for sharing your thoughts and ideas around leadership. There's so many, we could spend all afternoon on this. Is there anything you've got coming up in particular that you would like to share with us, to tell us what you're up to?
So I've got the masterclass obviously coming up, which is next Friday, I think it is, isn't it? It's and we're actually, that's going to be a really practical session, and it's called Do, Dump, Delegate. And it's literally going to be an exercise out of one of the exercises I do that's practically looking at what you're doing and what category does it go into. You know, is it about handing it over to someone? Is it about parking it? So ultimately, you can spend time on the things that you need to do. The other element of it is that there might be things we say, right, I can't give it away now, but it's about having that plan too. So in that hour, we're really going to just literally simply have a look at some things. What are your priorities? And that's the practical, right, let's get that plan and get it out as well. So there's kind of like that, release that attachment.
Cool. Can you imagine going to the end of the week going, phew, that's done, and come Monday you've got it all ready to rock and roll. Thank you so much, Selina. Please put your links in the chat when you get a mo, so if you want people to connect up with you, your email address or your LinkedIn or whatever you want to choose, or Facebook. So thank you. Wonderful.
It's been a pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you so much. That's brilliant. So you get a better idea now of who Selina is and what she's about. I'm going to go back to share my screen because we've got some more fun coming up.